Hi, I'm here today with Andre Walcott, who's the AVP of DEI at Advantis Credit Union. How are you, Andre? Thanks for joining us.
Hi, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Good. Oh, I know we're having a lot of fun with these interviews and very excited to be able to talk to you today. So why don't we start with just what is your role, and could you just tell us a bit about your organization, where it's based, size, etc. However you want to describe it.
Yeah. So I am the AVP, so Assistant Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Advantis Credit Union. I've been here for about 9 months now, and the whole goal of my job is to ensure that DEI is integrated into the DNA of Advantis. And I do that in 4 different ways. So the first one being Advantis as a whole, so looking at policies, procedures, processes, and ensuring that they're equitable. And then looking at the employer side of things, so looking at our staff. So what is our staff representation? Are they receiving trainings? Are they really focused on the recruitment and retention piece of things with our staff, and kind of promotion as well? The other pieces are looking at members. So what are our products, our services? How do we kind of support all of the members, especially those from the historically excluded groups? And then lastly, looking at the community. Credit unions are community-based. And so really focusing on that community. How do we bring community into the Advantis kind of fold of things and support? How are we supporting the community? So Advantis Credit Union is based in Portland, Oregon. We have we have 9 branches right now. We're opening 10th branch coming in March. So very excited about that. Thank you. We're about an asset size of $2 billion and about 89,000 members strong.
Okay. No, that's great. And, just looking at your background, I know you have a doctorate of philosophy. I think I have that right, from Oregon Health and Science University. And could you talk about your path to this role? And, is a doctorate of philosophy very helpful in this role that you have? I'm sure it is, but just love to hear more.
Yeah. So my PhD is in behavioral neuroscience. I originally wanted to become a faculty member at a college or university. I was doing on that path, and then I realized that during grad school that not many faculty members look like me. I'm a queer, Black, male, a cis male, and so I started to realize that this is like we're not getting that representation where it should be. And so once I finished grad school, I then went into higher education administration and focused on how to increase representation and retention of students from historically excluded backgrounds. So my science background really helped me get to that piece because of my technical base, but also just the experience of doing research and communication and whatnot. Once I finished that, I did that for about 3-ish years. And then Advantis had an opportunity to be their director of diversity, equity, inclusion. So one of the recruiters actually reached out to me on LinkedIn. And at first I was, what is a credit union? Like, what is this all about? Tell me more. My first thought, growing up in a kind of a low-income area, my first thought was credit unions supply auto loans, and that's all I thought about.
Oh, really?
And then I did not know much about credit unions, and I learned more about it, and I was like, these are such great organizations that really support the community and do more than just that. And I wanted to be a part of that, and I wanted to be a part of an organization that is helping kind of the Portland metro area community in various different ways. So I wanted to kind of be more local with my work.
Yeah. And so I think it's 9 months you said with Advantis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've already been promoted, so I think you're doing pretty well. What can you say now about credit unions, and why is this sort of something all credit unions should be doing?
Yeah. So just kind of looking at DEI in general, the whole goal of credit unions is, of course, people helping people. And so we want to ensure that really focusing on DEI in that motto, we're not just helping specific people, we're helping all people. And so opening those doors wider for folks, getting that ability to increase their financial literacy and financial wealth and financial education, which is something that a lot of communities have not had access to. And so for working on DEI within a credit union, you're not only supporting the folks within the credit union space or as an employer, but also looking at the community and our members. And so how do we support the surrounding community that we're focusing on?
Yeah, and I think you said at the outset, the ways you're supporting diversity, equity, inclusion in Advantis. I wonder if you could just talk about maybe a couple of examples. I did a fair bit of reading. I was very impressed by the wealth of activities going on. But anything you wanted, like there's this one I remember called Belonging Communities that you've launched. So anything you want to talk about more specifically about programs and initiatives would be great.
Yeah. So I'll touch on the belonging communities. So we call them Advantis Belonging Communities, or ABCs. In other organizations, they're known as employee resource groups, or ERGs. And so the goal of these communities are to build a sense of belonging and supporting specific key interest groups.
Okay.
So we have two currently that we launched. I think it was in September or October when we first launched them. So the first one is Unity, and they focus on LGBTQI plus individuals. So supporting our staff, supporting the community, which is really cool. They actually just did a fundraising or a volunteer event with a local LGBTQI plus community nonprofit organization this weekend. And then our second one is the Latina population. So, and their name is Ni de aquí, ni de allá. And so it means not from here, not from there. And so it meant a lot, I think, just hearing that for myself, as someone who, I'm not part of the Latina population, but I also have that feeling of being not from somewhere and not from currently where I'm at. So that community also is building that sense of camaraderie, I would say, within our credit union space. So that's one thing that we have that we've been focusing on. Some other pieces are, I believe, is kind of that strategy base. And so ensuring that DEI is really ingrained in our strategy. And so we have, of course, our business plans and whatnot. And some of those projects and strategic projects are DEI based. And so I think that is something that is that's so important for DEI to succeed in the organization. One of the other big pieces, kind of programming pieces, is we run a DEI survey every other year. And so the whole goal of a DEI survey is to focus on what is our employees, getting feedback from our employees. And so not only looking at it quantitatively, but at the end of the survey, we ask them, what is their feedback? Some open-ended questions. So they can provide kind of whatever they would like to say. It's all anonymous. And I take that feedback for myself, and we have a DEI council. So we take that feedback and then integrate it within our strategy and our DEI roadmap and our journey that we're going on. So we just finished that survey, so I'm really excited to see the results soon, and I can start updating our roadmap to really focus more on what does the staff want to see and what does the staff need. And so I think that's always important, is really taking the perspective of our staff and driving home and using that feedback and driving home with some projects and actionable plans.
Have you done any surveys with membership or sort of even general population surveys as well, in terms of where, is Advantis seen as a leader in this area, for example?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good question. So we have not done anything like that yet. I think we've been on our DEI journey, but we're starting to really take off. So I think that is something down in the future I'm hoping that we can do, is really start focusing on, looking at our community partners and just the community in general and members, and what do they see from Advantis? What is their experience? We do membership surveys, just kind of broadly their experience, but nothing that's specific to DEI.
Okay. And, when you work with these different groups you were talking about, why is that important? And what are you getting from these groups, and what are you giving to them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So something that, what are we kind of getting from them and what are we supporting them is, and the reason why all this is happening is because we look back in history and all the systemic barriers that have existed. And I know you're in Canada and I'm in the US, and so there's kind of different histories, of course. But we all know that for African Americans or individuals who identify as Black, there's just kind of the slave trades that have happened and a lot of history there, and all of those, that because of that has led to a lot of the barriers that still exist in our current financial institutions and our current kind of systems. And so really breaking down and dismantling those systems and really understanding, why is this still happening? And how can we kind of dismantle it and mitigate and take those things away to ensure that in the future, these things aren't continuing to happen? And so that's why I think that's the piece that I'm trying to put into these communities and kind of taking out of the communities in a sense of is their knowledge. And I think that's one of the biggest things, I guess, going to thinking of the community as in like the Portland metro area. There's so many folks in the community that are doing such amazing work. And as credit unions, we're also doing amazing work, but there's some people who are that are experts at some of the things.
Right.
And so let's support them on their journey as well while they're kind of supporting us. So it's a partnership, and not in some other organizations we start to see a lot of, hey, we're coming into your community and we're going to do this because we said so. Right. And we see that a lot in a lot of things. And so we want to make sure that we're not doing that, but we're creating a partnership and a collaboration and supporting these communities.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I'm just curious about for a credit union that is wanting to embark into this area but doesn't quite know how to get started. Like, what would you recommend is the sort of right approach, or are there things that are important that are in place for this to really have true value?
Yeah, kind of getting started. I would say ensuring that you have the support from leadership. And not only from leadership, but also from the entire staff. So you want to make sure that you have the support from everyone in the organization, or the majority of everyone in the organization. But leadership is key, because if you don't have those decision makers on board, then you're kind of not going to get things done. So that's kind of the first step. The second one is ensuring that when you are starting, let's say you bring someone like myself who is focused only on or specifically on DEI, making sure that they're set up with resources. So do they have the people power? Do they have the budget? Do they have the sometimes necessary title to get some of these things done? So that is another piece, is ensuring that you have some of these things in place. I was fortunate enough, I came in, and so this was a new position for our credit union at Advantis, but I came in, they had a DEI council already formed. So the council is 12 members that across the entire organization at varying levels who are passionate about DEI, or have some experience working in small DEI spaces, maybe in college or in high school, or any of these things, or like just that passion's there. And so they see the organization at such a different level than I think I do, because there's 12 of them, and they're seeing kind of the on the ground and seeing the thing that's going on. And they are providing some of that strategic thinking with me. And so when I get this DEI survey back, I have a full conversation with them, and our CEO, Jason Wirtz, comes in, and we all have a conversation about, what is the survey actually telling us? What are we getting from this? What is your reactions? What is your feedback? And so I think having those things in place are very helpful.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Thanks for sharing. When you look at, financial institutions tend to be a bit, we've got a lot of complicated language. There's a lot of approvals, things like loans. Have you begun to sort of look at some of the processes or products, or, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm curious about, do you see things that would be limiting for certain groups in the way processes are designed? And is that, you think, maybe not now, but in the future, perhaps part of your mandate?
Yeah, no, it really is. And I have started doing some stuff kind of with some of our products and our services and our processes. And so I would say my first year now currently, so these last 9 months, I haven't fully dived into it, but I have that on my roadmap to start doing a lot more. So looking at all our policies and going in and diving in and saying, okay, what is our language that we're using? One thing that I know that we currently don't have, but I've seen other institutions do have, is having that heavy focus sometimes on credit scores just to be a member. And I think that in itself credit scores are such a barrier to folks. In the US, it is shown that African Americans have a much lower credit score than pretty much every other group. And not even that, it's just like a lot of the marginalized communities have lower credit scores. So that focus on credit score sometimes can really be a big barrier. So I think that's one of the big ones, but also just thinking of the products that folks provide. Thinking of, hey, overdraft fees. You can rack those up so quickly. And if you don't have that financial literacy, then you can get so many fees tied to things, and then you're in a bigger hole. So really looking at fees, are they necessary, or even lowering fees? So I think there's a lot of things that can happen, and there's a lot of work. I think that personally, I think as at Advantis that we're doing some of this work, but we're on a journey, and so
Yeah.
it's a thing that we'll keep on going and keep on pushing forward.
Yeah, no, I admire you for that because I mean there is things like NSF fees, other fees are revenue generators for the organization. And so those are potentially tough conversations to have in terms of, but again, I think, what you talked about at the beginning about, credit unions are for people, being key. So great. I applaud you on that work. Is the fact that, DEI and initiatives and someone like yourself is working and others, these groups that you have, are you seeing as a potential recruitment tool? Like, I'd like to work at Advantis because of this strong work they're doing in this area. Have you seen that? Are you using it as a recruitment tool at all?
Yeah, no, it is definitely a big one. Looking at a lot of the studies show that the Gen Z population is really focused on how do we support kind of all groups, and so making sure that we are representative of everyone and equitable for everyone. And so that is something that I think is really helping us, because we have heard from some of our employees that they thoroughly enjoy how much we're doing around DEI, and that there is dedicated position to it, that we have a council, that we're actually taking this to heart and really meaningful and being very intentional about things. And so we do use that also as a recruitment tool, talking about our efforts that we're doing. I mean, we have some information on our website as well about what we're doing on our DEI journey, and I think the biggest thing is that we're honest about it, and
Yeah.
we're not going to kind of like, oh, we're doing all these amazing things, which I think we are, but there's always stuff we can do more, and so we're not going to say we're doing all these other things too if we haven't started them. So it is, I think it is used as a recruitment tool, and it is something that more organizations should start really, I would say, like really pushing forward, because the next generation is really focused on DEI. And some of these questions we get from applicants when they come in are DEI focused questions. It's like, how's your culture here? And so if you don't have that answer, or if you're kind of like, it's great, or you can't really show something for them, then they're just going to walk away. I actually recently just had a friend join Advantis as a member. And her reasoning was because she's like, y'all are doing some amazing work in the DEI space, and I could trust your organization. So I just seeing that, and without me being like, hey, become a member at Advantis, she did it on her own.
That's great. So it isn't always about rate and fees. It's yeah, no, that's, and do you think it's important to have, the community reflected in the employees of different backgrounds, and how much are you, when you look at, say, putting a search together for a particular position, and I know that's not entirely your realm, it's probably HR, but how much are you think the organization is thinking about making sure we're representative of the communities we serve?
Yeah, no, that is something I talk about a lot, is make sure that we are representing the community we serve. And not only that, sometimes I think we can kind of go even a little further, because of, like I was saying earlier, the historical barriers, the systemic barriers that have existed for folks. So they're not actually even in the financial kind of financial industry realm. So just the sense of being members. And so we kind of want to do better than that. We want to do better, so we're more representative of all folks. Especially, I mean, I can be honest about this, like Portland, Oregon has some pretty dark history, and a lot of people know about it. And representation, it's not the most diverse city, but so we want to do better than that, because of the barriers that were there. We want to make sure that, hey, our representation is more diverse than the city, and our members are more diverse than the city as well.
No, that's great. And I applaud you for all the work that you're doing. And it's, it's early on, 9 months, and my goodness, there's a lot going on. So that's excellent. It's a bit of a broader question here, but, what are 2 or 3 things that you think credit unions can do to help improve that financial health of their communities? You can think of, through the work you've been doing, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I'd say the first thing that really comes to mind is starting to understand this new generation of individuals. Like I think that's the biggest thing. Like going back to the, like I said, Gen Z.
Yeah,
they are expected to be the most diverse. This is specific, I guess, specific to the U.S., but going to be the most diverse group of individual or generation that we have. And so, okay, so let's start changing some of the ways we do things. And so really focusing on that area because of, as we know, like older generations are starting to now start pulling, I mean, they're pulling more money out of the credit union spaces. And that's where a lot of the money is from, is those older generations because they have those experiences. But thinking of the financial education and literacy of millennials, I mean, I'm a millennial myself and Gen Z population. We didn't really get any financial education in high school or middle school or elementary school. I mean, even in college, I really didn't get any financial education. It was more of on a whim. I learned about savings. I learned about different types of rates and loans and whatnot. And so because of my knowledge here that I've gained just within these last 9 months, I feel like I know so much more than a lot of other folks who are the same age as me because of my experiences, and we haven't got those. So focusing on kind of these younger generations on how can we educate them and bring them into the fold in credit unions, because if we're not bringing these individuals in, then how, as an entire industry, how are we going to survive? And so I think that's one piece.
Yeah, sorry, carry on.
Okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay.
It just got you have me thinking. So
yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just curious about, and what do you think how do we make them more marketable? I absolutely agree with you that, you know, a bit of the story of credit unions is an older story. Communities, you know, 6 people around a kitchen table and loans weren't happening for farmers. And so they created their own organization. Like, what's the contemporary story for young people, do you think?
Yeah, I think for young people, it's more of that community aspect of things, because as credit unions, we can't always compete with those fintechs and with some of the rates they have for savings and whatnot. But we can compete on the sense of, hey, we are in your backyard. We are supporting your local communities. I think that is a big piece, and that support goes such a long way than hey, we have a 10% rate of savings or whatnot. I mean, this hypothetical would be amazing, but
I want to sign up.
I know. So I think that kind of really bringing in that community aspect is big, but also looking at how are we marketing to some of these folks? Like, I mean, there's a lot of, I think I remember what study, or I was reading something that said like 40% of Gen Zs get like a financial education from TikTok. And so, like, do we need to change our approach on how we're actually marketing credit unions, and bringing our information and our wealth of knowledge to them, and presenting in a way that is effective and that's going to get to these younger demographics. So I think there's going to have a little bit of change on how we really bring these groups in.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, and I'm decades older than you, but I would say that my education on financial matters and, you know, how I took care of my own finances came from working from a credit union. So the fact that we're both sort of aligning on that story says there's work to be done, right? That you know, that financial wellness and education piece, you know, needs to be center. And probably also needs to be delivered differently than, you know, there's a digital aspect, but there's always a people aspect. So sorry, now I'm hogging the spotlight here, but the analogy is really interesting for me. So that's cool. Was there any other one? Because I think I interrupted a little bit there. Was there you know, other things that credit unions can do to help improve the financial health of communities? Other thoughts?
Yeah, I think the other big one, I think I said this earlier, was going into the communities and finding the people who are already doing the work and supporting them as well, and being a partner with them, because I think that is one of the biggest things. Is there's so many organizations out there who are doing some of this work in supporting these communities that are historically excluded or have been historically excluded, and they're doing this work already, but they might not have the resources. So how can we, as credit unions, support those organizations and not reinvent the wheel and cause more harm than actually good? So I think that is one of the other. I think that's probably the biggest thing is supporting the folks who are doing that work already, and being a partner to them.
Yeah. I think we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but I'll ask again, just in terms of, you didn't, you were recruited, you didn't really know what a credit union was, and you kind of learned on the go. Why do you think people should consider working for a credit union?
Yeah. I mean, I rave about it all the time, which is which is so funny now because again, you asked me 11 months ago, I wouldn't really know much. But I think the credit union mentality is because it is so community based. It's community based, but also we live, of course, in a capitalist society, and financial education and literacy is so big, and kind of helps you support you through kind of life. And so being part of something that's so much broader it's exciting. I mean, I get up in the morning, I'm excited to go to work. I'm like ready to go, and like I'm excited the fact that I could be part of this realm of work and kind of things that I can support communities who might not have had the necessary access to financial literacy and education.
Yeah.
And so I think that is one of the biggest things is that community aspect.
Yeah. And how are people in your different groups that you have internally, how are they enjoying that experience and that role that they have to play in the organization?
Yeah, I mean, I think they enjoy it. They're not that I haven't heard anything negative about it, so that's good.
Well, the survey will tell you.
So making the assumption, but no, I think they enjoy it, and they're doing some of the work, and they feel like they are part of the solution of things, and so I think that's where I would see, or that's what I would say from my standpoint.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, those are my tough business questions. I have a couple of fun questions. Are you up for that?
Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
So I have, you won't even know what this is, but this is a vault. And I put my special fun questions in here because they're so precious. So I'm going to open my vault. There we go. Have a look at your questions. Okay, I have two for you. What is one band or musician you would love to party with?
Oh, that is really good. I'll have to think about this one. Um, I would say if there was one band or musician I'd want to party with, oh, this is going to say a lot about me, probably.
That's okay.
I would say if I had to pick one person to party with, it'd probably be Lady Gaga, just because she seems so much fun, and she's probably one of my favorite artists. And she's also my husband's favorite artist, so I think that also tied
there you
into
go.
things.
That's cool.
So I think she'd be fun to party with.
Yeah. I'd love if you'd invite me to that party. I'm a Lady Gaga fan. What TV show would you want to be in? And what one wouldn't you want to be in? You don't have to answer both. You can pick. You can pick.
I will say the TV show I wouldn't want to be in, this came off like right off the back, was any of the Real Housewives. Just don't want to be in any of them. I fully enjoy watching them because I think it's great television.
Yeah.
And sometimes makes me feel better about myself. But I definitely don't want to be part of it because it is too much high drama.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a show you'd like to be part of?
A show I would like to be part of. I would say back when Real World was on, that's what I would want to be part of, because I thought Real World was actually the early stages of Real World. Before reality TV was really, I guess, big. I think that's definitely what I want to be part of that.
Those are great answers. Those are great answers. Well, I really appreciate your time today, and I thank you for sharing your insights, and also thank you for the work that you're doing. It's important work, and I'm sure that, once people watching this, they're going to look up your credit union and have a look. And you've got a great site, by the way, and it fully sharing the different initiatives that you have going on. So please, for our viewers, please go check out the Advantis Credit Union site. And thanks again, Andre, for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's been so much fun. I'm so glad I was able to do this today.